welcome my people. Welcome to an edition of Cognac and Conversation. Today, man, we're gonna talk about the police officer. Her name is Amber Guyger, along with the person that she assassinated, or if you want to say killed, Mr. His name is, hold on one second, I'll tell you in a second. Computer act like it want to act up now. Botham Jean. It's spelled Jean, but it's really Jean and not Jean. I guess some type of French. I'll have the picture up in the description where you guys can check it out. It's gonna be her mugshot, and it's a picture of him. That's the only picture they have on. I'm not trying to be biased of showing a mugshot and saying I'm trying to paint her as a bad person. You know, it's the only picture that they have up on the internet at the time, and the picture of him as well. So, just want to clear the air on that. But if you're not familiar with the case of Miss Guyger and Mr. John, Mr. John was killed in his apartment when Miss Amber Guyger said she came into, which is a police officer, she entered the wrong apartment thinking it was hers, and she took Mr. John, which was in his own home, as an intruder or a burglar, and she killed him. This happened in Dallas, Texas. I can read some of the content for you, then we're gonna have an analogy of what's going on, and we can really conversate and get your opinion on it, and you'll hear my opinion on it. You can put your opinion down in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Amber Guyger, who's a Dallas police officer on the force for 4 years and involved in previous shootings, parked on the wrong floor after her shift and opened the wrong apartment door, shooting and killing Botham Jean because she thought he was a burglar in the dark. He wasn't. He was a businessman and the beloved son, prominent St. Lucian parent, who was eating a bowl of ice cream and watching television in his apartment when Guyger burst inside. Amber Guyger, verdict is now in. A jury in Dallas found the 31-year-old guilty of murder. Guyger testified at a trial she thought she was entering her own apartment when she shot Jean and claimed he was coming toward her. However, prosecutors said he was either cowering or getting up from his own sofa when shot. Cowering meaning that he was ducking or running away or trying to get away from wherever she was pointing the gun at. That's what cowering means. By all accounts, John had done nothing wrong. He was just minding his own business in his own apartment when killed by Guyger. Service weapon, the two not knowing each other, so claim. We'll get back to that as well. The jury rejected a castle doctrine, stand your ground law defense, as well as a lesser manslaughter charge. According to NBC Dallas, Guyger could face 599 years in prison on a murder conviction and between 2 and 20 years in prison on a manslaughter conviction. At sentencing phase, prosecutors presented text messages showing Guyger had joked about a Martin Luther King Jr. Day parade and black officers, and indicted she wanted a racist dog. Let's see. She had some text messages as well. We'll get to that as well. But prosecutors argued that Guyger should have known Jean's apartment was not her own due to a red mat and other clues. The defense argued that she made a horrible mistake. The state also presented evidence that Guyger was sexting her police partner the night of the shooting to counter arguments that she was tired from working overtime and just returned from work. You can watch the verdict here, which they have also a verdict, and I'm gonna try to upload that verdict as well. But long story short, there's some more things that I'm gonna say, but I just want to address this. She said she entered the wrong apartment because she wasn't paying attention. She was tired and exhausted from work, and that due to that exhaustion, that she entered the actual wrong apartment, or she parked on the wrong floor, which was the 4th floor, and I think Miss Guyger stays on the 3rd floor, which Mr. John was directly above her apartment where he resided. Mr. John had a red carpet, distinctive red carpet that was in front of his door where he resided, which no one else has that red. And even Miss Guyger knows she don't have a red carpet in front of her door. So I'm not understanding how you can mistakenly go into the wrong apartment and you're not paying attention, even if you're, some of I looked at the case, and they was trying to argue saying that she had so much stuff that was in her hand she was carrying, which is her bulletproof vest, her gun belt, and so forth and so on. But how could you not look down when you're walking? Like, you have been living in this apartment for a few years now, and I'm pretty sure by repetition, you just know where you live at. Even if you park on the wrong floor or whichever, you're still not gonna just, blatantly just go into the wrong apartment and fire your service weapon upon a civilian, an innocent civilian that was just minding his business in his own home. But that was one of the things that really indicted her, because she could have made a mistake. It's true. She could have made that mistake and went into the wrong apartment, but it's what she did after that mistake is really, I think, what indicted her on that. Because, for one, once you enter that apartment, even if it says a mistake, and you realize that furniture is not your furniture or whichever, you're not that exhausted. Let's just be real. Let's be logical. The first thing you would do is retract and try to exit and try to go to your apartment, apologize or whichever, if that person is visible or there, actually in the home. Number 2, even as a police officer, you're trained to do certain things, which is fight or flight. And she chose to fight, because once she entered that apartment, even if she figured that it was a burglar in that apartment, you had enough time to say, oh, let me bag out, get cover, and call for backup, which what she is trained to do. And she did not do that, which they also questioned her training as well and asked her how much training she had and how many hours and things, so forth and so on. I will actually leave that the link to the court proceedings below in the description, and you guys can actually go through that and actually hear everything that went on and make your own decision without bias. But this is just my opinion on what happened and how I feel about it. It's just my opinion. This is not, this is just what I'm thinking happened. But she has been indicted of murder or whichever. So back to the story. Ms. Guyger, after choosing to fight instead of flight, she took it upon herself to draw her service weapon and asked Mr. Jean, which is the resident of that apartment, to let me see your hands, let me see your hands. So she said up in the court under oath. Come to find out that they didn't believe that she actually did that, because they heard witnesses had in that apartment complex and next door neighbors say they didn't hear her say, no, let me see your hands, or let me see your hands. They heard Mr. Jean hollering, hey, 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 meaning that, you're entering my apartment, I don't know who you are. Plus, when you raise your gun, I'm figuring my life is in danger. So I'm saying, hey, 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 hold up, what's going on? He was scared for his life. And unfortunately, his life was taken from him. But after actually shooting Mr. Jean, Miss Guyger says she assessed CPR. Mr. John was hit twice in the chest. One bullet actually severing his artery to his heart, which he bled out. Ms. Guyger says she administered CPR, yet that was known to be a lie because she didn't have any blood on her hands or on any of her clothing that she wore that night. So how did you do CPR to a person that has 2 holes in your heart, bleeding out, but you get no blood on you? That don't make sense. So we already know that's a lie as well. So it's not looking good for her. After saying that, they have the 911 calls or whichever, and she said she administered the CPR. She kept yelling, I thought it was my home, which given her justification, I guess, to say I had a valid reason for shooting this person, this unarmed civilian that's in his home. You know, I don't think that he has to follow orders in his home. If someone come into your home and say, let me see your hand, let me see your hands, I don't have to let you see my hands. You are a visitor. You are an intruder. I don't have to obey your commands unless, okay, I see a gun and I don't have a gun or anything to protect myself, then I have to go along with your demands. And that comes from the person that's actually breaking into the home and the person that's occupying the home, which is the homeowner, because he have to make a decision to fight or flight as well. So it works both ways. I'm gonna read you some more of Ms. Guyger's testimony. They say on November 30th, 2018, Guyger was indicted on murder charge. That charge, Dallas County District Attorney Faith Johnson said at the time, requires an element that the person intentionally and knowingly committed the crime versus doing it recklessly. CNN reported, quoting Johnson as saying, at the moment of the shooting, it was a knowing offense. Guyger's lawyer insisted that the shooting was a true mistake, according to CNN. Guyger repeated that claim on the witness stand. Guyger said, I was scared this person is in this apartment was going to hurt me. Now, she didn't say my apartment, so she said this apartment. So you knew you was in the wrong apartment. She said, I was scared this person in this apartment was going to hurt me, and I'm sorry. A deeply emotional Guyger testified. I have to live with that every single day. No police officer would ever want to hurt an innocent person. Wink, wink. To speak on that, Ms. Guyger, 2 days after Mr. Jean was actually murdered in his home, they subpoenaed also the text messages, and Ms. Guyger as well in the text messages was asking just 2 days later. Now, this is a person that's on the stand. Now, this is actually a year later from the actual crime up to the court date. But at the time of the crime, 2 days after her crime, it was said to be, which is subpoenaed court records on document, her saying to a fellow officer that she was sexting, of course, the married officer that she was having an affair with, that she was ready to go to the club and have a couple of drinks. Let's get out and have fun. This is 2 days after this murder that she committed. That seems kind of strange to me, you know. That doesn't sound like a person that's really emotional, distraught, or having problems with what she had done, even if it was a mistake, you know. That sounds like a person that just want to have fun. And she was saying that she was tired and she was fatigued and she worked long hours, but also in those text messages, it showed that she said she was just going to go home before the actual crime was committed. She was going to go home and she was going to change clothes and go to 24-hour fitness and work out. It don't sound like you're tired to me. So her story, none of her story is actually adding up. The Dallas Police Department announced on September 24, 2018 that it had fired Guyger. Guyger was arrested by the Texas Ranger in Kaufman County, Texas, On the evening of September 9th, 2018, jail records show she was being held on $300,000 bail, but she posted it. So she posted bail for 300 grand, and we all know it's 10%. So I don't know if she actually used cash or she put up some property or whichever, but whatever she had enough to liquidate, or she was financially stable. Her or her family or her fellow officers chipped in and did this because she was living in an apartment. So, that don't mean anything, but I'm pretty sure you don't just have $30,000 just laying around somewhere, But the officer involved in the incident has been identified as Officer Guyger, number 10702. She has been on the department for years, assigned to the Southeast Patrol Division. Dallas police said in a statement on the evening of September 8, 2018. You can read it. You can read a search warrant in the case here when they have it underlined or whichever. John's family attorney has slammed it as smearing Botham John's because of it reveals authorities found marijuana in his apartment. So this is another thing that they try to do, and the whole key is to really play down and make the person that's actually hurt, or the person that was actually had harm done to him, to make them look like a bad person. So therefore, saying that Mr. John had marijuana in his apartment has nothing to do with him being killed as an unarmed civilian in his home. But that's the mind control thing of what we have going on now, to say that, okay, if I say that this guy has marijuana, then he's a bad person. He's just so evil. Which back in the time, marijuana was just like, they used to grow marijuana like the sugarcane fields or the tobacco fields. This was put in different medications and things like that, which they still have different elements of cocaine that's been tested in Tylenol and things like this. So, that's just something to put out there to paint that bad picture and say, oh, he was on marijuana, so, oh, maybe he was, it's nothing that you can justify for this, because this guy was in his home eating ice cream. Wasn't bothering anybody, wasn't taunting anybody, wasn't doing or whichever. So she never reported, even as him being her neighbor, which is on top of her. You still can call him neighbor, because she never reported like smoking weed. She never reported that loud talking. She never reported fighting or anything. And this is an officer. We have nothing on file that's saying that she filed anything or any complaint saying that this guy was a nuisance. So that right there alone says that, I don't know what that marijuana thing was going to do, but I guess you got to throw it out there. The same way you throw it out there if something happens and you go through that person's whole family tree to find that one person that, and a crime happened in 1998, but then you go back and find his grandfather from 1916 that murdered a deputy. So some type of way that justifies that person being killed or being a bad person because, hey, we found some dirt on a family member. But that's the way that the news do things, A arrest affidavit further reveals that Jean's apartment door was unlocked and it was dark inside. When Guyger entered his apartment, she allegedly thought he was a burglar when she saw a person in the dark, shooting John a single time in the chest after she told authorities he ignored her verbal commands. Now, this is in his home. Let that sink in. She shot him because he did not obey her verbal commands in his home, that she's an intruder at this time. Let's see. The Dallas Morning News reported that she had just worked a 15-hour shift, what does that do? Okay, you work 15 hours. So everybody that work 15, 16 hours or long hours, you have the right to kill somebody? I'm not understanding this. Online records show that Guyger has a long tie to Texas. Mothers Against Police Brutality and the attorney for the John family had called for an officer's swift arrest in September 8, 2018 news conference. We are calling for justice. It's unacceptable, said the group's leader. This is an unacceptable way for Dallas to represent itself to the world. This is an opportunity for the city to be transparent and take swift and immediate actions to correct the wrongs. Botham Jean was from a prominent St. Lucia family. He was also a recent college graduate who studied accounting and was known for his leadership on campus and his beautiful singing voice in his Christian church. John's family is traumatized and disbelief, and many people have expressed outrage against the police officer on social media questioning the story. I worked 14-hour days regularly and get wrecked regularly, and I've never once forgotten where I lived, wrote one upset Twitter user. Now another thing, Miss Guyger, of course, they had many witnesses that was really, the story that she was telling, it wasn't adding up to what the witnesses actually seen and heard. And these people were petitioned or subpoenaed to come to court and testify, which they did on the oath. And that didn't help her case either. Because from looking at the case, Miss Guyger she would say she don't remember. But when she realized that the prosecution had evidence of this, what they were saying, then she was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember now. So she was playing a game of saying, okay, I'm not going to incriminate myself. I want to know how much you guys know before I even say anything. So any jury can pretty much see through that if you're not biased or racist or prejudiced to the fact of the case, because we all have some prejudice in us or some bias in us as people, as a human being. But according to the case and what you're hearing in the testimony that you're hearing, you're not biased to just looking at black or white, cop, civilian in that type of form. That's what I mean. Let's see what else they had on Miss Guyger. They say, number one, prosecutors told the jury that Guyger should have realized she was in the wrong apartment. Which, like I said, that's true. She should have knew that. No matter how tired you are, whichever. According to an arrest affidavit, Botham Jean's apartment number was 1478, and Guyger lived on the floor below him in apartment 1378. The apartments are in most ways identical or extremely similar to the exterior surrounding structure and description of each other. The document says one key way they were not the same. Jean had a bright red floor mat outside of his apartment, and Guyger did not. So you would think that you would know if you have a bright red, not a brown, not something contrasting, which if it's gray and the floor is gray, you won't notice, or whichever. It was a red. So if the walls are gray and the floor is gray and it's dark, that red is going to stick out like a sore thumb. Yeah. Let's see. The defense attorney at the trial told jurors she's trying to process this as she's stepping into her apartment. And at the same time, I'm sure Mrs. Jean is thinking, what is this person doing? Who is coming into my apartment? So he's confused. He's wondering what's going on. She's thinking, what is going on? Why is this man in my apartment? And she looks up and he's standing up. He's about 30 feet away from her. And I'm sure he's... Let me put this up a little bit. Where I was. And so he's confused and wondering what's going on. She's thinking, what's going on? Why is this man in my apartment? And she looks up and he's standing up. He's about 30 feet away from her, and I'm sure he's armed. But she's thinking, oh my God, there's an intruder in my apartment, and she's face to face with him. She's within 10 yards of him, and he starts approaching her. And she acts like any police officer would, who has a gun with confronting a burglar suspect. However, the prosecution, Jason Fine, told the jury a guilty verdict in this case does not mean you hate police. He alleged that Guyger should have known that she was entering the wrong apartment. According to the Dallas Morning News, Fine ticked off several clues that Guyger missed, including the red mat in front of the door. She should have known that she was in the wrong apartment, he told the jury. Fine said that Guyger's fears were not reasonable. It sounds so absurd, all these things that she missed and all the things that she thought, and yeah, she thinks it is, but not her responsibility as a person, he said to the jury. Assistant District Attorney Jason Humus said killing this man was unnecessary and unreasonable. The affidavit says that Jean was home alone when a ununiformed Guyger, who had just ended her shift, arrived at the complex and parked on its fourth floor, which corresponds to the floor Jean lived on, not Guyger. Guyger entered the building and walked down the fourth floor hallway to what she thought was her apartment. The affidavit says she inserted a unique door key, which it was like a key fob, with an electronic chip into the door and keyhole. However, the door, which was slightly ajar prior to Guyger's arrival, fully opened under the force of the key insertion, the documents contain. Now, let's stop right there. I'm gonna get ahead of you guys because I got some more information that you guys, if you're not familiar with this case, the door automatically closes on its own and locks. It's like going to a business, an industrial plex, or a business or some sort, where you walk in the door and the door closes on its own, it locks. You can't get in it unless someone from inside opens the door. The key fob is unique to every door or every resident, meaning that her key won't work for his apartment and his apartment won't work for her apartment or any other apartment. It's designed just for your apartment in that particular door. She said that she approached the door and the door was slightly open. Yet you still took the key fob and tried to put it in an open door already. It doesn't make sense. The second thing is, if Mr. Jean had problems with that door, as they're indicating by police officers, saying that the door had a problem or a malfunction with shutting and closing correctly, Mr. Jean would have knew this because, okay, he lives here. I'm pretty sure it didn't just happen that night. If it was a problem or a malfunction with that door, it would have had some type of thing saying that he reported to maintenance of the apartment complex. Or if he reported to maintenance, they hadn't got around to it, he would have made sure, let me make sure this door closes correctly because I didn't want, or I wouldn't want someone to come in on me and kill me like what happened to him. And I'm thinking he would be saying these things. So I don't think that he knew that that door had a malfunction or had an issue with closing, which I think it was just a lie. You understand? So she came into the door and giving orders in someone else's home. Now, looking from her background and her character, and I'm not trying to judge this lady because we all make mistakes, but could she been having some type of relationship with this guy? And she said, "Oh, I'm coming up." Oh, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'm laying down. I'm just gonna leave the door open for you. I'll leave it cracked, which you can probably open it and close it softly so that it doesn't slam." I'm just asking. Maybe that could be the issue. But at some point, she entered the apartment. And upon entering that apartment, she came up on Mr. Jean and shot him twice, which the officers call a double tap. Meaning you shoot 2 times, and both times into his chest, which it was another actual bullet that the coroners or uh, well, I'm gonna say the coroner addressed and said that this bullet was coming from a downward angle. So coming from that downward angle, when she said she shot twice, she actually shot more than twice because one missed him. Because of the angle and the trajectory of where the bullet came, and they did all the ballistics on it. It's no way, like he testified, you would have to actually be standing over him in the angle that the bullet went and the trajectory that it came from the door. She said she shot from outside the door, but that also was a lie. She was actually inside where she shot and killed Mr. John. Let's see. After the door opened, Guyger observed the apartment interior was nearly completely dark. Additionally, the door began being opened alertly complained Jean to Guyger's presence, believing she had encountered a burglar, which was described as a large silhouette across the room in her apartment. Guyger drew her firearm, gave verbal commands that were ignored by the compliant Jean, the affidavit alleges. So once again, like I said, you break into a person's home and you act like you giving them, it doesn't make sense. You can't go into someone else's home and give them verbal commands, and then when they don't abide by or listen, obey your commands, you shoot them. And then you say, oh, I'm in the wrong apartment. My bad. Because I'm not understanding what they wanted to come out of this situation with the courts. Like, or the court's just going to say, hey, she made a mistake. Case closed. You're free to go. And these people have lost their son. And she's still alive, just going on with her life. And it's just a life that's lost without meaning. It was just gone. It's just, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. And that's just it. Deal with it. Hey, man. As a result, Guyger fired her handgun 2 times, striking the compliant 1 time in the torso, according to the affidavit, which said Guyger entered the apartment calling 911 and requesting police and EMS and provided first aid to John. This is when she said she did CPR. She turned on the interior lights while on the phone with 911. Upon being asked where she was located by emergency dispatchers, she returned to the front door to observe the address and discovered she was at the wrong apartment. The document alleges prosecutors said at trial that she only gave Jean minimum aid. Okay, now let's just go with that. Upon being asked where she was located by emergency dispatch, she returned to the front door to observe the address. Now, if you in your mind know you're at your apartment, this is your home, why would you retract, go back outside and look at the address? It doesn't make sense. This is my home. I'm going to give my address. I'm at whatever my address is. And I'll be wrong later, which will actually justify me saying that I made a mistake. When you ask me where I am, I'm not going to go out, because that way I'm already saying that I admit I'm not at my apartment. I'm not at my home. I know that, you know. So when she did that, that let me know right there she knew what she was, and she knows. Everything that I'm going over, man, is going to be in the description. I'm gonna list everything and put it up for you guys. But I wanted to get you guys' opinion on this, man. What you guys think from what I've read so far, and what you guys will actually read and actually comprehend for yourself. I want you guys to comment and let me know what you guys think. What's your opinion on this? She has been charged with murder, but she hasn't been sentenced yet. that will actually be pretty soon, because they are actually deliberating on that now and still going through the proceedings. So, but she is in jail. She is incarcerated, and she has been charged with murder. That verdict came down, I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, either yesterday or day before yesterday. This is just a sad story, man. This is a sad story, and like I said, maybe she did make a mistake, and maybe she, it made a mistake, but it opened a lot of doors for other things. That it opened Pandora's box, because then it opened up a way to look into her life and a lot of things that we didn't want to know, and it kept a lot of things under wraps because there was a lot of infidelity going on with the police officers and Miss Guyger and her lifestyle. So they didn't want to actually bring a lot of innocent people. I guess you can call them innocent. It was infidelity, but they're not part of bringing those names in. Won't help the case, because the case is not about infidelity or someone cheating. The case is about her intentionally or unintentionally entering the wrong home and killing a civilian, unarmed civilian that's in their home. But like I said, the description to be in. This is Cognac and Conversations. We're gonna have a lot more going on. I want you guys to share, subscribe, and like. And we have another conversation that's coming up that I wanted to talk to you guys about, but I'll save that for another day. I'm gonna go through the top 5 things and facts of this case. And of course, I just actually read one of those things. And the first one was, let's see here. Number 1, prosecutors told the jury that Guyger should have realized she was in the wrong apartment. That was the first one. And number 2 is, these are the top 5 things. I have them here on my computer. Let's see. Number 2, Officer Amber Guyger, who has worked for the department for almost 5 years, cried in the hall for minutes. A witness alleges, but was sexting her partner that night. That's number 2. Now she's crying. She's so distraught. She's so hurt. All of this is going on. She has killed an innocent person. Yet, that night, she's sexting the guy she's having an affair with, this married man. So that don't seem like too much. That don't seem like too much sorrow or regret. It doesn't make sense. I'll read you guys number 3 that I have wrote down. Amber Guyger was involved in a previous officer-related shooting, and Botham Jean mother says her son did no one any wrong. That's number 3. This is just part 1 of the Amber Guyger and Mr. Jean's case with Cognac and Conversation. Part 2 will be coming soon. Stay tuned. Make sure you hit the subscribe. Make sure you hit the like. And make sure you hit the, make sure you subscribe and like so you can stay up to date. Hit that bell as well, because once I upload these Cognac and Conversations episodes, you guys can be the first one to get on and give your opinion on what's going on. But I would like to get you guys' opinion, man, in the comments below. Please put what you think happened or what your opinion might be on the case. It'll be greatly appreciated. And I thank you guys for watching and subscribing and liking as well. Please share once again. subscribe, share, and like. See you guys soon. You have a blessed day, and see you on part 2.